So we put laminate floor down in our basement, but we didn't know what to do about the stairs. So I figured out a way to take the laminate flooring that I did on the floor and bend it to make little caps for my stairs. So on the back, on the risers, I used iron-on melamine in order to cover up all the holes and everything. But I'm going to show you how I bent these pieces of laminate flooring to make this stair tread. So I have a couple of those done, and then this is what it looked like before. So you can see there's nothing on the top few steps, and I have a couple of these trial fitted before I glue them down, and this is one in progress. So this is what I'm going to show you how to do. To make the cap for this, you need to start with a piece that is exactly the right width. I use full width pieces so I don't have any seams in the middle, and dry fit it, make sure that it fits properly. The material that I'm using is called waterproof core, and it has a layer of vinyl on top, and it has this backing that is plastic and sawdust, I guess is what it's made of, but it's completely waterproof, but it's really thick, so I have to put some score marks in there where I'm going to bend it in order to be able to bend it and not have it all bunch up on me. This is a piece I was just doing some trials on, so I already have figured out what distance to make my cuts and how deep to make them. And so I just take my piece that I've got that fits, and I adjust my fence on my saw. I start on this one, I start at exactly 6 inches. And this one I'm just going to cut off this lip here, so I have to set my depth to be just enough to cut that off. And then I keep just resetting my fence to bring it a little farther in, and just keep making these score marks in the areas where I want to bend it. So now I have my piece of flooring that I have all my little notches in it to be where I want to bend it, and I can trim any little bit off with a razor blade if there's anything sticking up that I wasn't perfect about. And then I made this jig in order to bend the bend the flooring, and it's the width of the piece of flooring that I have. And then what I'll do is I'll warm it up and I'll put it in this fixture and bend it. So I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so I just take this and so I just take a heat gun and I just go back and forth with the heat gun. You don't want to really stay in one place too long. You don't want to burn it. And so this takes a while. I think I counted, I go back and forth 30 times per side or something. But you can maybe smell it bending, or you just sort of touch and sort of move it. See if it's softening up. See, it's still not soft, so I'll just keep warming it up. Okay, so I've heated it up enough that I feel like it's flexible enough. Careful where you set your heat gun, because those things get hot. So I can sort of bend it fairly easily. So now I can take this and tighten this down where it's kind of, so I tighten it down to where I got it as tight as it'll go on this side, and as it'll go on this side. Okay, so now I can take my jig and I can bend this side up this way and bend this side up this way, and then, sorry about that, then I can bend it so that it, okay, so when I get to close to where it's getting too hard, I put a clamp on here and I just sort of crank on my clamp to get it to go together, because I'm not that strong anyway. But this jig is kind of just made out of scrap 2x4s and some hinges, just some whatever cheapest thing I could find at the hardware store, and I have to add a little shim there. So I guess it's not very elegant, and I'm sure that someone out there can probably come up with a way better one than this. But some lessons learned on here. I did find that using a metal angle iron is really helpful because it sort of keeps the heat in and allows the the flooring to heat up without interfering, because I tried using a piece of wood, but I find that this piece of old angle iron works really well. And then bending both pieces at once, I just found that it makes it go a little easier. And then what I'll do is I'll get it started, and then I'll actually flip it over and over bend it so that it does give a little bit of spring back when it cools off, but I leave it like this in the fixture until it's completely cooled off, and then I find that it doesn't spring back quite so much. If you take it out when it's still warm, it will spring a lot. So that's how I end up getting the bend in there, and it does stay fairly well. I've only used this waterproof core material, so I don't know if this will work with just plain vinyl flooring that doesn't have a backing on it, maybe just that thin stuff, so I haven't tried it on that. Alright, so I bent it once, and then in order, I don't know, like I said, you guys, somebody else out there probably has a way better way of doing this than I have for this fixture, but I flipped it around and I'm over bending it because I still end up with a little bit of spring back in it, so I have put my flooring in here. I don't know if you can see it back in there, but it's sort of bending it at more than a 90-degree angle so that if I have any spring back, and then when you install it, a little bit of tightness is good because it'll kind of conform to the bull nose of the flooring. So anyway, this is sort of the crazy way I have of bending these things, heating it up with a heat gun and then just bending it in this fixture here. Okay, now that my flooring in the jig is completely cooled off, I'm going to remove the clamps and pull down this release my screws so I can get it out. And there we go. You can see I've got this flooring and it stays in shape. Checking again for temperature. I guess I could have left it go a little longer. It's a little bit warm, but that's okay. What I'm going to do now is take it over to my steps. Alright, so taking my flooring here and trial fitting it onto the floor here. And since I overbent it, it is a little tight, which is good. Once it's glued on, it stays in place. So then the next thing I do is I take a piece of template flooring, extra piece that I have, just makes life easier. And I take this and I click it in to approximately getting it in there right. There we go. just so I can kind of get an idea about how deep, so you can see I have a pretty big space over here, so I can just take a measurement of that and say, okay, I need to cut a piece a little bit bigger. It's going to fit in there, bigger than my template, and fit it in there so that I can finish my step. So now I have my final piece of flooring here, and it's just click lock, of course. And so I have to get it put together, snap it together. Once I get it close, just like any of this other time you do this stuff, you kind of have to shim it and use a hammer to try to close the gap. That's what I can do. Just put these little shims in here, hammer them this, hit it home. Okay, so now that I have it all pushed together with, I can't see any seam anymore, what I do is I take it very carefully back out, very gently, take it back out, flip it over, and lay it down on the floor so that I can get to the back side here, and I take some super glue. And then I just put some super glue in the seam here, just to give me a little extra to hold it together. There. So now that I got all that put together, I just leave the super glue dry. So here's one that I've finished already. Get my other tools out of the way. I can take this piece that I have and just put it right in there. Voila, that's what it's going to look like. So make sure it just all fits okay, and there you go.